Hola, it's Jessica from ruffling.com. So I'm here with my tiara, quote-unquote, headband. Let me explain this real quick. So I bought these really sparkly headbands, and in my thick head, they are only headbands, nothing more. But almost every time I wear it, I get a compliment on my tiara. What is it? Because you tell me, is it a headband or a tiara? Because it's flat and it's round just like any other headband. It just has sparkles. Okay, so me and my tiara and my red lips are here because I'm going to show you a tutorial on how I sewed a Disney theme table runner, and it's based on my interpretation of Snow White's story. And what I did was I used blue, yellow cotton, and red silk. So the blue and red are like her sleeves, how they have blue and red. The yellow ruffles on the bottom are like her skirt. She has a big yellow skirt. And then her red bow. So what I'm doing these for, my friend is having a baby shower. She's doing Disney stories as her baby shower theme. So every table is going to be a different theme. And then this is my Mulan interpretation. Now my friend doesn't like pink, so I couldn't use a lot of pink material. So I just did the reverse of this to get the pink. And then I have a red with black and the blue. And that's just at the end of the table runners. So this is for Mulan. We're going to put like cherry blossoms on the top of it. Then I'm not done with the Lion King one because I'm going to trim it with zebra all the way around, zebra print all the way around. But this is my Lion King. And then my interpretation of Beauty and the Beast story, didn't want to do Belle because a lot of people tend to just be drawn to doing the gathers on Belle's dress. So I did a nod to Belle, but I did more of the Beast when he's wearing his suit at the ball dancing with Belle. He's wearing blue with a mustard trim on there. So I found this suede and it has like a lot of texture to it, so it's kind of thinking like the Beast's fur because he's still the Beast. And then I just used a blue silk blanket ribbon as the trim on both sides, and then I hemmed the bottom. And this is the bow I did to nod to Belle, and I used just a really heavy silk to kind of show her dress. But I only did it on one side because I didn't want to do too much, so just one side. I actually really like the way this one came out. I think it's really sophisticated. So anyway, me and my tiara and my red lips are going to show you how I did Snow White. So then I bought 3/4 yards of blue cotton. The folded edge is towards me lengthwise, and I'm going to cut it in half. Once you have two pieces, you're going to cut those in half, but widthwise, which would be on that line that kind of comes with the material. After you have those 4 pieces, you will cut it in half lengthwise. I used about 5 14 by 11 inch square pieces. Always make sure you're squaring up your fabric. This yellow cotton is about 3/4 of a yard, and it's folded in half lengthwise, and I cut it in 6-inch strips. With a 1/2 yard of red silk, you want to cut out 5-inch strips. If it gets caught like this, all you do is cut it loose and then pull out the thread, and it'll smooth itself out. You want to iron all your pieces. Your cottons, the blue and the yellow, will be at a higher iron setting for the heat, and your silk does need to be at a low setting where you're pressing harder. So for best results, I use the Inspira brand Microtex 60 strength needle. I then used my Hump Jump tool to help insert the needle. If you don't have this tool, you should really get it. It does come in handy for more than just changing needles. Now you're going to put your material right sides together, and then using silk pins, you're going to pin down so that you can make your first seam. You can use a regular utility foot for this, but I happen to have a 1/4 inch piercing foot, so I'm just going to put that on.
Now you want to sew your seam, locking at the beginning end of the stitch just like normal. But when you sew with silk, you're going to find that it puckers a lot. That's why you want to use the Microtex needle. Also, another technique I use, you can see here, I'm pulling on the silk. I'm pulling tight on the silk as it's going through the machine, but I am not pulling it through the machine. It might look like that, but it's not happening. You got to let the feed dogs pull the material through to get accurate stitching. But to minimize puckering, if you do pull tight on the silk, even when it ends up on the bottom side of the cotton, like how I'm pinning it now, you're going to get better results. Put right sides together, pin, sew a seam, put right sides together, pin, sew a seam until you get to your desired length. Once you reach that, you're going to set your iron on a low heat and iron out your seams that you've just created. Since I had a 1/4 inch piercing foot, I do need to switch mine over to a J foot, and that is an Overcast foot on my Viking machine. If you don't have that, you can use a regular utility foot for this stitch as well. It is an Overcast seam or a blanket stitch, and the reason for this is because silk tends to fray a lot, so in order for it to stay together, not fray, and just look clean, I did this stitch on all of my seams. This is just a close-up of what the J-foot looks like. There is this little tiny peg right in the middle of the foot, and that is what the thread sits on so it doesn't pull your fabric. And you're also lining up your fabric at the edge of that toe. Next, we're going to be working on the binding and the ruffles. So you're going to put right sides together and pin, connecting all 5 strips together. So I am using the Overcast seam for this one as well. You want to iron out every seam that you do create, and then once you do iron out the seam, you're going to fold it in half, wrong sides together, lengthwise, and iron it to make a crease. This is my ruffler foot, and I'm going to set it for ruffling every 6 stitches. You can set it for 1 to 12. I'm setting it for 6. So you need to take off your ankle on your machine and replace it with the ruffler. A lot of people aren't familiar with the ruffler, and the most important part is that fork goes on top of the screw where your needle is, and then you use a screw for the ankle and make sure it's tight. Like, your material is going to go on top of the bottom piece and right below the next piece, which is like in between my fingers right here. That's where your material is actually going to feed into. So I just want to show you how I put it all the way through, and then it's not below the foot, it's right in between. Now that you have your fabric lined up, you're going to hold the top and bottom thread for a few stitches. It's going to gather every 6 stitches, and you're just going to keep gathering until you reach at least 14 inches in length. There's no real good way of doing it besides after it comes out the machine gathered, you reach 14 inches or your desired length. So now I just switched feet. You can put on your utility foot and do right sides together. So you do the right side of your runner to the right side of the ruffles, and you just stitch down. So you're going to have 2 lines, but you just want to make sure it's secure. Then you're going to turn it out and you're going to top stitch it so that it won't flap back over. So now that you finished top stitching that, I would just go ahead and continue top stitching throughout the entire table runner. What I did do was push my seam towards the blue cotton instead of on the red silk. That would prevent it from gathering or puckering any more than it already is since it's silk. After you're done with the top stitching, you're going to move on to the binding, and if you don't have a right side or wrong side of your binding, it doesn't matter, but you're going to put the right side of your binding to the wrong side of the table runner. I know that's confusing, but right side of the binding to the wrong side of the table runner. You're going to stitch down, and then you're going to roll it over. So as you see here, I'm going to cut just leaving a little tail because I need to tuck that in so that you don't have a raw edge on the end. So I'm pulling out the hair, like all of the fraying hair, and cutting that loose so it'll be clean. Then I'm going to roll it over to the right side. So now the right side of that binding is going to show on top of the right side of the runner. Well, just like this. Then at the end, I'm going to tuck it in on itself, fold it over, and now you don't have a raw edge showing. And you're just going to top stitch all the way through. So after you're finished top stitching, you're going to reach the end and you're going to tuck it in on itself, then fold it over. Now, I'm sorry that my hand is in the way. I tried to do a close-up, but I figured you guys would still get the point. So next time I'll be more aware of my hand blocking the camera, but I hope it helps. And then you want to go through and cut all the little hairs that poke through on any thread you have. Just clean it all up. And then you want to set your iron on the low heat for silk and iron it out. For the bow, you're going to want to cut 2 3 by 5 inch red silk squares and 4 5 by 7 inch red silk squares. Take 2 of the 5 by 7 inch red silk squares, put them right sides together, and then you're going to sew in a square. You're going to have to leave a 1.5 inch opening so that you can turn it inside out. Before you turn it inside out, you want to miter the corners. All that means is that you're clipping off the corners without clipping your stitches. Then you turn it inside out, give it a little press, and then top stitch it. You want to top stitch it so that you're stitching the opening closed and you're flattening everything out. To make the center wrap on the bow, all you're going to do is find the center, fold the raw edge lengthwise to the center, do the same for the other side so they meet in the center, and then fold in half. Now, silk won't iron, so you're going to either have to pin it or hold it down, but you're just going to top stitch that edge closed. And I went ahead and just top stitched both sides, so it just had a more uniform look. So now you just gather the larger square, then you wrap that center piece around it, and I switched feet on my sewing machine to my trusty narrow zipper foot, and I just stitched it close as close to the main part of the bow as I could. After you give it a few back and forths, you're going to snip it off, but not too close to the main bow because you're going to tuck it in on itself just like this, because you're going to attach it to the actual runner and you don't want too many raw edge showing. So you need to find the center of your table runner, and then still using my narrow zipper foot, you're going to stitch down, and then we're going to follow it with hand stitching. So the reason I hand stitched this part was just to make sure it was going in the right direction. It sat where I wanted it to sit, and they're really just tacks. You're not holding it for support, you're just holding it in place. Now repeat for the other side, fluff out, and admire your work.
So that was my video. Let me know if you liked it. Please like, subscribe, comment. Let me know if you liked my other table runners, and you know what I'm going to do is, if I eventually get pictures from the baby shower, I will have to do an update, like a few months away, so I'll do an update and just post some pictures for you to see in my next video. God bless, take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye.